Have you ever wondered why some Christians are so passionate about sharing their faith? I mean, what's the real drive behind proselytizing? Well, in this explainer, we're going to go straight to the core beliefs to really understand the powerful motivations behind this practice. Let's get right into it.
So yeah, what is the driving force here? Why this active, dedicated effort to find new believers? To really get to the bottom of it, we have to break down the key ideas, the very foundation of this belief system.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll define what we're even talking about. Then we'll get into the divine command that is said to have started it all, explore the universal problem it claims to solve, see how the whole thing is supposed to work, and finally, dig into the powerful personal joy that seems to fuel it all.
Okay, first things first. Before we can really get to the why, we have to be crystal clear on the what. So what exactly is proselytization?
Well, the word actually comes from the Greek proselyte, which basically just means a newcomer. And originally, it was used to describe someone who converted to Judaism. But today, its meaning is much broader. It's pretty much any new convert to any faith or doctrine.
So proselytization is just the action. It's the process of actively trying to find those new converts, It's the doing part of the whole thing.
Now that we know what it is, let's dive into the first and probably the most fundamental reason why it's done. This is really the bedrock of the entire practice.
So, from the Christian perspective, we're looking at this isn't seen as optional. It's understood as a direct command. The source points to a very specific passage, often called the Great Commission, as the foundational instruction for all believers to go out and share their faith. For them, it's a core duty, kind of like a direct order from a commander. But a command is only part of the story. To really get it, we have to look at the core theological belief that gives that command its urgency and its meaning.
And this just captures the core logic perfectly. On one side, you've got what's seen as a universal problem that affects every single person, sin. And if the problem is universal, the thinking goes, well, the solution must be too. And that solution is presented as Christ's sacrifice, a message that's meant for absolutely everyone, no exceptions.
And that right there is the gospel. It literally translates to good news. I mean, think about it. If you had the cure for a disease that affected every person on Earth, would you keep it to yourself? This belief system frames the message with that exact same level of urgency. It's good news that simply has to be shared.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why. But what about the how? How is this conversion actually supposed to happen? Well, it's described as this fascinating partnership between the divine and the human.
Now, this is a really crucial point. The belief is that a person can't be argued or persuaded into genuine faith. True conversion is seen as a supernatural event, an act of God. Just like this verse says, it's not by human might or power, but by God's Spirit.
You can see that partnership right here. Look at these two elements. First, the divine piece. The belief is that God himself kicks off the process, drawing someone to faith. But then, there's the human element. That message has to be delivered by a person. The logic is actually pretty simple. How can someone believe in a message they've never, ever heard?
So we've covered the theology and the mechanics. But what about the personal side of it? What's the deep emotional driver that makes someone actually want to do this?
This is so interesting. The source says the core motivation isn't really a sense of duty, but just profound joy. This quote really gets to the heart of it. It's the happiness that comes from knowing the people you love are, in their view, spiritually safe and secure.
So this joy comes from wanting to share a refuge. Think of it like this. If you found a safe harbor during a massive storm, your first instinct would probably be to get on the radio and guide other boats in, right? That's the emotional impulse that's being described here.
And this slide does a fantastic job of showing what that refuge actually means in practical terms. It isn't some vague, abstract idea. It's a collection of things that pretty much everyone wants: rest, peace, love, and freedom from stuff like lying and fear. So the motivation isn't just to share a belief, but to share these specific positive experiences.
All right, let's put all the pieces together. We've defined the term, we've looked at the command, we've understood the theology, and we felt that personal motivation. So what does this complete picture look like?
It all really rests on these three pillars. You've got the divine command. That's the initial order. That order is then given this real urgency by the core belief in a universal problem that needs a universal solution. And finally, the whole thing is propelled forward by a deeply personal joy and a desire to share that feeling of safety and peace with others.
So when you combine a divine command, a message of urgent good news, and a powerful sense of personal joy. You get a belief system with a really compelling internal logic. And that leaves us with a final crucial question to ponder. How does this powerful combination of ideas continue to shape action in our world today?